Welcome to Foundation. For more episodes, check out foundation.kr. Today we're talking to Chad Hurley, who's the co-founder of YouTube. He talks to us about some of the challenges in scaling YouTube in the early days, as well as some new ideas that he has in the collaborative video space. Let's chat with him. So I always like to really start at the beginning, going way back.
All right.
Tell me about, where'd you grow up, first of all?
I grew up in Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of Philadelphia, in the country. Yeah, I ended up moving out here to California in '99. That was kind of my beginning.
Was that post-college then?
It was post-college. So I went to school in Western Pennsylvania, small school called IUP. Most of you probably haven't heard of it, but I went there to study initially computer science for the first semester, and then switched to getting an art degree in graphic design. I was always conflicted between technology and art. Art won there, but yeah, I found my way back to working online with computers.
Were you a geek growing up? Were you like into computers at a very young age, or?
Yes, I think I would be considered a geek. Just in terms of, in high school I was really more into electronics at the time, so just in terms of taking things apart and building things and entering kind of shows, building my own amplifiers and other things like that.
What got you out to the Bay Area?
The Bay Area? Well, I was reading a Wired magazine and read about this little encryption company in Palo Alto that was beaming payments through Palm Pilots. And I just finished school at the time, and I had a Palm Pilot, and they were looking for a graphic designer, for someone to design the interface for this new product called PayPal. And I sent them my resume, and literally a week later, I was out there sleeping on someone's floor, working for them. There's only about 10 of us in a little brick room right on university.
So who were the other people at the time that were a part of PayPal?
Well, it was Peter, Peter Thiel, Max, Levchin, Reed from LinkedIn. I'm trying to think who else. Well, Steve, co-founder of YouTube, was working with him at the time. Jeremy from Yelp.
Had these guys done anything big before? Because obviously they're brand name people now. They've all done multiple startups, all really big ideas. Was it pretty much all their first startup kind of thing, or?
Yeah, that was pretty much all of our own kind of. It was like our initiation, or it was our first experience in Silicon Valley. We didn't really know what to expect, and I think for all of us, it was kind of a learning experience that we kind of just jumped into this world when at the time it was somewhat chaotic. I mean, everybody and their brother had a startup, and lots of startup parties and everything, and we ended up surviving kind of that whole world imploding, and were able to create a sustainable business just by discovering people needed to pay for things on online auctions through eBay. So yeah, for us, we were able to see a lot within a short amount of time, and yeah, for all of us, I think we took that with us onto our next ventures.
And at the time, what were you hired on? What was your role there at PayPal?
I was just a graphic designer. So I did everything from t-shirts to credit card designs to building the first interface for their Palm Pilot app to designing the website and all the payment.
Amazing. I had no idea about this.
All the payment buttons and everything else that you'd see all over the place.
That's awesome. So how long were you there for?
I was there for a little over 3 years, 3.5 years. So it was, again, a crazy ride, but we had a chance to go public and then eventually be acquired by eBay. After the acquisition, I just kind of felt like I wanted to take some time off and think about some new opportunities. And I took about 2 years off before I started thinking about what we could do in the video space.
So 10 people when you first started, what did that grow to by the time you left? How many employees?
Well, I guess it depends on how you'd count the employees. We probably had a few hundred in Palo Alto. Well, we moved down to Mountain View. And then we had a large customer service center in Omaha, Nebraska. So that was like the other half of the company. So it was like probably close to 500 or 600 people.
And did you build out a design team while you were there, or was it?
No, I was just part of the design team. I mean, there was 4 or 5 of us at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what did you go on to do next?
Well, I just took some time off to contemplate life and just
travel a little bit, or
travel. You know, got married, had a family, did a little traveling and moving around, but then settled down in Menlo Park and started working on some new ideas. We didn't really know what we wanted to build, so I just reconnected with some of my friends at PayPal, and we'd meet up from time to time. And
so you and Steve essentially that got together.
Yeah.
And so was there any ideas that you launched, or was it did you have a handful of ideas? Like how did you first start getting going there?
You know, we were kicking around lots of different ideas, just trying to look at the market, seeing what opportunities were out there, and just what would align with our interests, I guess. And we kind of settled on video because at the time people were sharing photos publicly, so it was still...
Was it Flickr that was the big one?
Flickr was still relatively new. I mean, they were already at Yahoo, and we just thought it was kind of fascinating, the community that they had built around photos, and we just thought there had to be an opportunity for video. I mean, I guess initially the video thing was that we had devices. It wasn't necessarily our cell phones at the time, it was more just digital cameras that could take video, and just no real easy way to share them. Not only with our friends and family, but with the world. Like, how do you share your videos that you've been taking the same way you would with Flickr? So we initially thought the idea for YouTube would be more almost like video profile based. So it's like ways that people could meet each other through video profiles, but
like a dating site almost?
In a way, but even before we launched the service, I mean, we'd spent months building this, and you know, for us, we were just thinking, okay, we can't have a very specific video product come to market, but we didn't let it slow down our launch. We just pushed it out the door, knowing that we had to change everything that the site was about. So it probably took us another 2 weeks to a month to really rip everything out and change it in a way to somewhat to how it exists today, that you can upload any video, searching into the video library. A video player with a set of actions and comments and related videos. So it's that was the basic concept of the site.
Let's jump back to when you started YouTube initially. So how did you go about getting funding? And like, how did you know that, like, did you go out and raise a round, like, or was it all through friends? Did you self-fund it?
It was initially self-funded. So we just, again, coming off of PayPal, we did relatively well, so we were able to take that time off and kind of support ourselves as we built the initial product. And we're actually able to recruit a lot of our friends from PayPal, great engineers that were basically just working for free before we even had decided to go raise some funds. They just started working with us, and we promised to pay them when we got funding. And again, PayPal connection, we ended up working with Roloff at Sequoia. We went around Sand Hill Road, we spoke to a lot of different people, but we ended up just working with him because we knew him. And Series A, we raised $3.5 million.
How did you know anything about like transcoding video? Like, that was a really messy space back then. There was like Real Player and Windows Media and maybe a couple others, but how did you get into that game? Like, did you hire engineers that had that background, or was it something where they just kind of like started cracking open books and...
I'm a designer, so you're asking the wrong guy. No, yeah, we didn't know what the hell we were doing, really. Even Steve, I mean, the guy I was working with that was doing the technical implementation, we just kind of figured it out as we went along. We identified a problem and we just went out to solve it. And I think if we would have really thought about it at the time, like probably a lot of other people were doing at the time, we probably wouldn't have built YouTube. Thinking about everything that we'd had to deal with in the future. But we just kind of naively jumped in and figured out that we need to re-encode, 200 different codecs and 100 different audio codecs into a single format. I mean, really the breakthrough with YouTube is that we were able to streamline that encoding into one format with Flash Video and seamlessly play that back for the viewer. So the viewer didn't have to think about what type of video player that they were using.
So my first experience with YouTube is I remember it coming online, and I watched a couple videos, some friends had put some videos up there, and they were kind of boring. There wasn't really much there. What was the tipping point for you guys? What was the big thing where all of a sudden, like, was there a breakout video, or what really caused, like, was it instantly overnight, like 2 days later you woke up and it was tremendous growth, or did that take a while?
It took a little while. I think we had some flyers or something we were putting around Stanford to try to get people to post videos.
Flyers,
like,
that's amazing.
Upload videos to YouTube. And
did that work at all? Did anybody?
Oh, we got a few crazy videos from the dorm. We didn't know what they were doing. I mean, it's a lot of the content that you see on YouTube today, so it kind of set us in the right direction. But yeah, we just kind of put the word out to our friends and family that we were building this site, and we started seeing traction. And there were a few other players in the video space that started to generate some buzz.
Who was your competition back then?
I mean, at the time, Vimeo was around, Dailymotion, trying to think out. There were some other video sites, like ones that just hosted more viral videos, like stupidvideos.com and Break and a few others. So, I mean, they weren't necessarily doing what we were doing. And even at the same time when Google Video launched, they approached the problem from a different perspective. And we're really just focused on short clips and speed, like how people could get a video into the system as quickly as possible and share it with others.
Were you pissed when Google Video launched, like for reals? Like
we were a little concerned.
Yeah, I bet.
But we thought,
because that was a real player coming to the table and being like, I have a service that's going to compete with you, not just another startup, right?
Yeah. No, we thought we were doomed, but in a way, it motivated us to do things cheaper and build an architecture that was more effective than they had ever built. So it did keep us on our toes for sure, but they ran into a lot of problems. They had their own player that they initially had people to download to view the players. You'd upload a video, you have to wait 2 weeks until you could see it. I mean, they weren't thinking about the user. They were thinking about how are we going to create a product that we can sell NBA content or something. I think that was one of the first deals they did was with the NBA to stream basketball games after they've aired or something. But we weren't really viewing our product as solving that problem. We weren't trying to build a product for like traditional broadcast. We're trying to build a product for people and for clips. And even after we launched, and even after we were acquired by Google, people kept talking about full-length content on the internet. And we knew that time was going to come, and we knew when the connections to the TV were better that opportunity would be there. But for us, the name of the game was just how many videos that we could serve, how many clips could we serve. So that really, the shorter the clip, the better it was better for us. It wasn't because of storage or streaming costs. It was just volume. We just wanted to make it as massive as possible.
So let's talk about making it as massive as possible. You know, one of the things that I think that was tricky back then, there was no really cloud, right? So you were like racking your own servers.
Yeah.
And bandwidth was really expensive. Like, did you ever worry about like, I just can't afford these bandwidth bills, I'm having to go raise more and more money? Like,
yeah, well, that was another thing. If we would have known when we created YouTube, we probably wouldn't have started. But we luckily had a great team in place. We were able to build a very effective, cheap, scalable platform that allowed us not only to control our costs, but to grow. What other people saw in this space as well with these viral videos that would take off is that by the time you'd get the link, the site would be down. That we were able to sustain all of that growth and the viral spikes that would come with it. So people started looking at us, looking at our brand as something that they could trust. Not only is this potentially, now we're the largest audience, largest aggregated audience where I could get views for my content, but it was the most trusted, I guess, that could be sustained.
What were your bills like back then? Was it just crazy bandwidth-wise?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't think, we got close to probably about $1 million a month for bandwidth, not quite. But you have to understand, we were pushing like a massive amount of data. For us, we thought it was pretty cheap.
How did you ever plan to monetize that? You had to sell, right?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of factors. We kind of the victims of our own success. There was no way that we really could sustain things on our own between, the costs to grow, really the resources. We couldn't hire people fast enough. I mean, we only had 67 people within the company when we were acquired by Google, but it would have taken us a long time to build a high quality team that would have been able to sustain that amount of video. And then third is just, everyone was an enemy. I mean,
all the lawsuits, right?
Well, on the tech side of things, our growth was very, it was very concerning to Google, to Yahoo, to Microsoft. I mean, this was a big opportunity that they were missing out on, that they were kind of going out, talking to people, doing video deals, talking about how bad YouTube was. I mean, after we became part of Google, that's sort of some of the things that they had to correct through negotiations. It's like, oh, they're not as bad as we used to say they were. And yeah, and then on the other side, you have the traditional media companies who were scared of losing control of distribution. And using copyright really at the end of the day as an excuse to hopefully crush us, but luckily we've been able to survive.
What was that like? When did you get hit with your first major lawsuit, and what were their claims?
First major lawsuit. Well, there was a few lawsuits along the way. The one was the guy who had filmed the Rodney King beating. You'd think that was a newsworthy event that would be available to the world, but I guess it's copyrighted. He sued us, and I think also like the Premier League sued us as well for some soccer content.
You must have just been having inbound requests, like takedown notices and lawsuits happening every other week, right? Was it?
Yeah, well, it wasn't necessarily lawsuits, it was just DMCA requests.
Right.
So that was another thing. We were kind of, potentially the poster child for copyright infringement, but we were doing more than anyone else in the industry. At the end of the day, that's why we won our case against Viacom. Not only were they uploading content to promote their own shows and movies, but any requests that they gave us, they would try to dump massive amounts of DMCA requests onto us, and we'd take care of it within 24 hours. We had set the systems and teams up in place that would scale, and then we introduced models for not only ways for them to control how the content was being used, taking it down, but offering new models to monetize it. So the music industry in particular, they were the first ones that we went out to cut deals with. They were the first ones that were able to benefit from this technology that we were able to build that didn't alienate their fans, that didn't require the fans to take the content off the site that they had created. We placed ads against it, and the record labels get paid for all those views that take place on the site.
How many people tried to acquire you?
Seriously, just two. It was just really Yahoo and Google in the running.
At the same time, or?
At the same time. I think Fox Interactive and Microsoft would have been interested, but we had to move quickly. Again, in terms of like us being an enemy to everyone, and spending so much money at the time, when we made a decision, we had to move fast. Because if we would have raised a big series, I guess at the time C, it would have just increased the target on our back. It would just would have been inviting massive amounts of lawsuits. And the same thing with being acquired. So we just had to move quickly, and Yahoo didn't necessarily step up the way that Google did. And at the time, we saw the culture inside of Google, and we had a good relationship with them. We knew that they were going to give us the support.
How was that though? Like, you had Google Video that was clearly an enemy at the time. Like, who calls you up? Does Larry call you up? Does Sergey? Does Eric? Like, what happened there?
Well, I had a good relationship with David Drummond, their chief legal officer. We'd met for coffee quite a few times, and when we seriously started considering these options, I called him and let him know that we're going to be looking at some offers. Let us know what you can do. And we had a chance to meet with Larry and Sergey and Eric at the Denny's in Redwood City.
Was that their choice or yours as far as location?
Well, actually, we had met there a week before with Jerry and Terry from Yahoo.
Who likes Denny's? Who goes there? Well,
Terry Simmel suggested it. He said it was very low-key, and they had great breakfast food. So yeah, we went. We couldn't get enough, so we went back. It wasn't because it was secret, it was the food.
Moon's over my hammy or something?
Yeah, Grand Slam.
Yeah. And so that meeting went off well, and then just...
it kicked it off. And we knew that, again, like I was saying, they were going to support us. They knew we were doing things right. They were able to admit, the product they built with Google Video wasn't working. I don't think a lot of companies would have had the courage to admit they were wrong and really shift to acquire their chief competitor, but they were able to do that. And the first thing that Eric said to us after the acquisition was like, what do we need to do? What do we need to provide you? How do we support you that allows you guys to be successful? And let us know if anyone gets in your way. Because they'd had some previous acquisitions, and they knew it's quite political in terms of people trying to offer support or kind of grasp for power, kind of climb the ladder type of thing. But he was just like, you guys are on your own. You still have your own office. I want you guys to continue to innovate. And don't worry about monetizing. I mean, think about where we're going to be in 5 years from now, so continue to grow.
So 5 years later, is YouTube profitable now?
I believe it is. I don't know, I'm not there anymore, but I think that they said that during the last call. I can't remember. At the time, when I took off, we were very close. That was the reason why I stayed at Google for so long. Beyond them supporting us and treating us so well, is that I really wanted to see things through, because they took a chance on us, they took a risk. I mean, at the time, a lot of people didn't think that YouTube was going to be sustainable, or it was going to be crushed by the lawsuits. It wasn't going to be a real business. And they were able to see through all that. And I really don't think YouTube would be here today as well if they wouldn't have provided us that support. That's another thing. I just didn't want to see the opportunity disappear for millions of people around the world, not only share their experiences, but their talents with others.
So fast forward, you leave Google, and you're onto something new. I think the biggest public thing is probably the acquisition of Delicious that happened not too long ago. Why? Joshua Schachter, awesome guy, had a big vision, created Delicious back in the day, kind of around the same time I started Dig, and obviously grew that to millions of users. When properties start to kind of take a dive, why jump back in and try and revive that?
Well, at the time, I guess it was about 6 months after I had left YouTube, and just reconnecting with Steve, talking about things that we wanted to work on. And really, at YouTube, we were looking at some of the problems we were looking at. Is like, how do we solve discovery? We're receiving massive amounts of video. How do we make sense of it? So really, with Delicious, we were opportunistic. Yahoo was looking to get rid of it. It was sort of a beloved brand. It had a community and data that we could have from day one. It would, in a way, just allow us to hit the ground running. But unfortunately, at the time, we didn't have a team in place to support it. So over the last few months and years, it's been a bumpy road just in terms of rewriting the code base. I mean, it was a really old code base that Yahoo had been supporting. We had to migrate all of that data and really do that with a relatively small team of people. And we tried to implement some new ideas, but what we found along the way, it's really hard to do that with an old community. I mean, it's really hard to take an old brand, an old community, and kind of reimagine it.
They like things the way they are.
Yeah, don't change it. So we started dabbling with a few things, more around how we could visually represent the information is being added. We'd taken those ideas off to a new property called Zine, and then we really just redesigned the site just to try to streamline it, make it responsive, just kind of make it more modern. And there's still a lot of things that we need to do with it, but really the idea for AVOS, the company that we created that acquired Delicious, is that we're going to have multiple services on top of a platform. So with PayPal, with YouTube, we sold these companies and all the technology with it, and really you have to start all over again. I mean, start from scratch. I mean, it allows you to hit the reset button on technology and what you implement, but we wanted to kind of get a lot of those things in place and structure it in a way that allow us to just work on lots of different ideas and not have to necessarily just commit from day one. And if one would take off, what would be the options to kind of spin that off in the future?
It seems like it's your incubator of sorts, right? You just get to play on with a bunch of different ideas and kind of vet things out and see if they're working.
In a way.
Is that fair?
But, yeah, in a way, but we're trying to do it on a limited scale, and it's more focused on, I would say, discovery and creation. So it's not everything and anything, but the two problems I saw at YouTube was, one, discovery, making sense of the video information, and two is, how do we help people create better content? Because I don't think that part's been solved. What YouTube was able to accomplish was democratizing distribution for the masses in front of a meaningful audience, and I don't think the creation side has really been cracked. What people are doing are, I guess, replicating the studio model to some extent, funding some of these smaller firms that are creating great content. And it's a great way to create content, but I feel like there should be better ways for people to collaborate. Because right now I feel like social means selfish. I mean, I think that people share really for themselves right now, and because
they want the views to go up, things like that. They're like looking to build a brand.
Yeah, but I just think in general, in the spectrum of social, it's very, very about your self-image. It's not collaborative, and really, when people share something, or what keeps people from sharing things, is being concerned how they're going to be judged. And the new stuff that I'm thinking about is like, almost how do you remove the identity from some of the things that have been going on today with social, and how do you combine people in a way that allows them to work together in more collaborative ways, where it's not about the individual, it's about the content that they could create. And
I mean, Wikipedia is kind of in that case, right? Where a bunch of almost semi-anonymous people come together to create great content. Do you see that happening on the video side, or would it?
I think so. I mean, we're working on some new concepts. I wish this conference took place maybe a month later, and I'd be able to unveil a new product. But we're working on some ideas around how people could collaboratively work together to create better content. I call it structured storytelling, is the stuff that I'm thinking about.
Is that mixed media? Is that like a little bit of text, a little bit of video, a little bit of pictures? Like what?
It's primarily video-based, maybe with a little bit of audio combined. But it's going to give people the flexibility to work together to create content. I hopefully feel like in more meaningful ways than it is today. I feel like today, a lot of the stuff that's being created, if you have the talent to shoot, to act, to write, to cut and direct, I mean, you're doing that all yourself on YouTube today. I think there's going to be other ways to combine people with different talents that creates better quality product.
I'm really curious now. Like, I know you can't go into this too much, but I'm wondering, like, what is it that people come to collaborate around? Like, obviously you have movies and short films and things like that where it's already happening offline. They collaborate, they edit, they upload, and that's what you get, right?
Yes.
Like, how does that happen online, and what's the end product? It's not documentaries, is it?
Again, we're going to approach it from the standpoint of creating a broad solution and see how the world defines it. I don't think, sometimes it's good with a startup to have a very specific use case that you're trying to solve. But at other times, it's sometimes good to kind of provide technology to people with a general structure of how to use it, but just observe how it all comes together. So
yeah, I like that approach. I think that Medium does a really good job there, where they kind of create this framework for you to play and then just see what happens.
Yep.
So that's your full-time focus right now? It is.
And like I said, hopefully in about a month we'll have some more things to unveil. But I'm just really excited about it because what we're really tackling now are some of the problems we never had an opportunity to do at Google when we were at YouTube. That there, first it was just focused on growth, then it was focused on monetization, creating a sustainable business. But it's really hard to do anything too aggressive to disrupt that momentum. I mean, I would talk to them about, I know what we can do to kill YouTube, and they wouldn't want to listen to me.
Are you going to kill YouTube?
No, I'm not setting out to do that now.
But will this potentially compete with YouTube?
I think what this is going to allow people to do is create better content that they could live within our system, but could live anywhere. So in a way, it benefits YouTube and any other distribution platform.
I mean, YouTube is one of those rare companies that when you look at it, I can't really think of any serious competition in many years. And if you think about just the waves from the MySpaces or the Digs or you name it, like after 4 or 5, 6 years, something comes along and kind of like gives you a run for your money. What is it that will eventually take down YouTube? I mean, do you have any idea, or?
I mean, when I would allude to, like, I know what we need to build to kill YouTube was, I would just think in terms of video standards. The thing that YouTube has is the video catalog and the audience. It's hard to find another place online that has more video than YouTube, and it's hard to find a place that finds an audience as large that's consuming it. But video standards is going to allow ubiquity of video online. I feel it's a very important media type of the web that I was trying to push them to index more web video. You can almost turn back the clock. They'd abandoned those efforts with Google Video Search. But for me, I just think in the coming years, there's going to be more opportunities for that to happen. But again, there's always going to be a place for YouTube because it has such a massive aggregated audience.
I'll ask you one more question, then just want to let everyone know we're going to do a Q&A, so there's microphones on each side. So if you want to just line up to ask questions of Chad, you can do that now. What do you think of Netflix and what they're doing in the original video space? Do you think that will eventually, do you think the Apple TV and kind of like apps on the television will eventually, and kind of this a la carte TV will eventually overtake traditional cable?
I think so. I mean, definitely it'll happen. It's heading in that direction. I think the more interesting thing is, like, how do you truly create video or experiences or entertainment that's more interactive? I think it's still pretty flat medium. And
It is
again,
pretty flat.
And people are just using it as a way to deliver their video to the screen. It's just distribution. They're not thinking beyond that. And I really do think the more interesting things that are going to happen is how do you involve your audience in that experience? How does this story reach out and involve you in the process?
How do you do that? Like more, I mean, obviously there's like, I like this video, and that's like the bare, like the very, been around for a long time. Like, what is it, what interactions happen with a next generation video that really include the audience? Like, what kind of tools?
Well, obviously it's going to be interaction with your phone. I mean, what's in your pocket? And it's not going to be like just changing the channels. It's going to be asking you to make choices. It's going to be asking you to, kind of navigate the story or participate in some way.
Think of those choose your own adventure books or something.
Yes, but hopefully a little bit cooler than that.
Yeah. All right, let's do some questions. Over here.
Hey, great story, thank you. Just a kind of small technical question. When YouTube launched, I think it was 2006, is that right?
2005, being 2005.
That year, the growth was like obviously extraordinary, but as a user, it never slowed down, it never kind of deteriorated. How did you do that with the small resource that you had?
In terms of what? How did we do what?
How did you make sure that the system still worked as quickly as it did?
Yeah.
With a small number of videos, with a small number of users, when it scaled up to millions and millions.
Well, luckily we were able to find some providers, hosting providers initially that basically had unlimited bandwidth. You buy a really cheap box for maybe $129 with unlimited bandwidth. That didn't work out so well for them initially.
You're the reason they have all those little asterisks next to unlimited bandwidth now, unless you're YouTube.
Well, at the time, they weren't thinking of a YouTube coming around, so we were able to kind of milk that for a few months until we had basically used all of the data in their data centers. But we moved over, I think, Equinox or something. We just ended up building out our own data centers. We probably had about 3 within the country at the time.
And you just added more servers that just kind of served the data as the demand went up?
Yeah, I mean, we came up with a system that allows us to plug in really cheap machines and they would replicate the videos. So it would allow us to scale really quickly. It would be really cheap. It wasn't all that stable, but it was a free product.
Well, it worked from a user perspective, so congratulations.
Thanks. Oh, sorry, we had one over here. I didn't see that.
It's okay, I mean, I just got up here, so if you want to. All right, now let's talk about the YouTube brand. So it's obviously a brand, and I'm curious, like, who came up with the name, who designed the logo, and what were you guys trying or hoping to communicate with the name YouTube? I think it's something implied, but now it's, it's the Kleenex of online video, And so what do you think it's become now? What does it mean to people now?
Yeah, so I came up with the name. I registered the domain February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2005. Very romantic.
And it was just free. You could just.
Yeah, it was free. I did a search online, and I think there was maybe 1 or 2 results for YouTube. I don't even know what they were referring to, but yeah, there's basically no Google results, and domain was available, so it made my decision easy. And I designed the logo as well, able to apply my art degree to something in life, and. Yeah, I mean, what I was trying to accomplish is just a friendly consumer brand that would easily, I guess, kind of imply that people could participate with the U, and then the tube is TV. I mean, it was just personalized television is how I was viewing it. And kind of the logo colors were inspired by the Caltrain, of all things. It's a little unknown fact. If you look at the Caltrain logo, it's very similar. And also the tube was kind of represent a little bit like the TV guide, kind of like a little television tube. But it was a play off of the slang for TV called boob tube, so just thought YouTube had a nice little ring to it. But I did have my doubts. I thought it sounded a lot like U2, and I didn't know if people were going to get it, and we spelled out U instead of using a U. So there were some concerns, but hopefully we're lucky it all worked out.
Awesome.
Hi. You mentioned that you're interested in the collaborative content and video and having communities created on the web. Are you familiar with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's website, Hit Record?
I can't hear you. Can you speak up?
It's hard to hear.
I said, are you familiar with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's website, Hit Record? It's a collaborative video website.
Hit Record.
Hit Record.
The collaborative
It was
video
created
website?
by
No, I don't know.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the actor, and it's basically sort of smaller, more private community, but a collaborative filmmaker and music sort of website. So it's kind of similar to the idea. I assume yours is a broader idea, but I was just wondering if you were familiar with it.
No, but I'll check it out. Thanks.
Cool.
Oh. Hi. I was just curious, how do you bring interactivity to kind of a suspension of disbelief Hollywood style that we've been perfecting for about 100 years? How do you bridge that? What are you guys trying to do with this interactive storytelling?
So he's talking about Hollywood, how they have, suspense and what else?
Suspension of disbelief.
Suspension of disbelief into the story, and with interactivity, how do you solve that? I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I have, what I'm thinking about is like how do you just engage an audience, at least with the technology, in a general way that allows the true storytellers to be able to leverage that. I mean, if you're able to deliver a message to the audience through the phone, or if you're able to provide some kind of feedback from the audience to the screen, what kind of story would you tell? I don't know. I just think if the tools are in place, that the great content and storytellers of the world will hopefully figure out a way to use it.
What do you think about Vine? Have you played around with it at all?
It's cool. I
There's
mean,
micro stories that people are trying to tell with it.
I mean, I met one of the founders before they were acquired, and we were talking about things. I mean, we've talked since. He's given me a call just to, well, not only talk about the world of video, but how do you survive within a large company? We had a little chat about that, but it's good. I think what they're providing again is structure in a way in terms of limited format. You have 6 seconds.
Right.
So that kind of removes a lot of the paranoid people of like, I need to create a video, and you have all the time in the world. Well, I can't do that. So 6 seconds is easier for people to jump into that. And the real breakthrough, I think, is using the touch to record to make people incorporate more cuts into their video recording. So I think a lot more apps are going to start doing that, video-based apps, because right now, when you hit record and it's just one long video, 1 or 2 minutes, it's not all that interesting.
You get that dead space and you're like, I wish I could have those 30 seconds of my life back.
Yeah. So I think that was a little unique insight, and I think that's a lot of the stuff that we're working on now is just looking for those little unique insights that maybe at the time don't feel all that interesting or
they're
powerful.
Actually a big deal,
But they're actually a big deal at the end of the day. I mean, like with the YouTube thing, with re-encoding videos into Flash, I mean, you'd think like, oh, that's just a little technical detail, but really, like, those little insights are what make massive successes.
No doubt.
Yeah, really interesting conversation about how the audience can influence the creation. And I was wondering, it seems like there are a couple of different ways that could happen. There's where the audience, the previous data, like for instance Netflix, they made House of Cards based on data that said, people who liked a certain actor would like this director and would like this type of political drama. And that's sort of before the creation of the product. And then there's also the interaction during and when they're actually watching it. And I was wondering what you thought about that, the implications of making something based on prior data, and how that might actually skew the creation process.
Yeah. Well, I think episode 11 of House of Cards, they blew it with the data. That was just ridiculous. Episode 11, but anyway.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, I'm not gonna say what happens.
How many people watch House of Cards just out of curiosity? That's a good amount, actually. Awesome.
Yeah. Who thought episode 11 was ridiculous? Yeah.
One person.
Yeah. Anyway, just one person. Okay, you have to watch it again. But I think that when you start anything, you need to trust yourself first and foremost. Again, it's sort of like the Steve Jobs quote where he says, the customer is not going to tell you what to build. So you just go out there and trust your instincts, build something. Once you have it out there, I wouldn't so much look at the data. I mean, I think that's how you optimize a service. You're not going to create it. You might make a 10% improvement in things by looking at the data, but observe how they're using it. Observe, again, look for those key insights. They may not be meaningful on a click basis or something, but if you see a unique way someone's using the product, adapt. That's what we did at PayPal. It's just one night I was in the office late, I was searching on eBay, and I saw something like 100 listings had eBay or had PayPal buttons placed on them. And I walked over to David Sachs, and said, people are using this to pay for auctions online. So that little discussion shifted our focus to focus on the online market and kind of attack eBay with payment buttons. But,
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really interested in how much success came out of the PayPal experience for all the people there. And I'm interested in culture, and I wonder if the culture of PayPal is what enabled that success afterwards for all those people like you, and how much you think and work towards creating culture in your new organization.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely think it's the culture, it's the experience. We were able to see a lot within a short amount of time, so we didn't really take anything for granted. We'd luckily raised enough money to kind of survive the dot-com bubble bursting, but we knew we were lucky, and we're just really grateful for that, to still have an opportunity to continue to pursue our dream of solving payments. But even at PayPal, we didn't know a thing about payments when we started. Again, it started as an encryption company. And it's a little scary to think that we were just trying to figure out how we transact and deal with people's money along the way, but that's what we were trying to do. So I think it was just that taught us that really nothing has been defined. You need to define yourself. You need to define the future of your company. No one's going to tell you what to do. So we just went out there and continued to move. So I think we just took all of that with us as we went on to new ventures.
I think we got time for one more question. Your question, sir.
Randall Bennington here, big fan of both of yours, actually. I just wanted to talk about one of the things about YouTube that made it so viral, specifically the embed code. Before YouTube, I had never seen it before, and I wanted to know, how did that idea come up at YouTube? Where did you see it? Where did it come from?
Again, I hate to continue to refer to PayPal, but we had payment buttons, and we allowed people to cut and paste payment buttons and put them on any website, blog, auction listing. So really for us, that would expose more people to our brand, to our service, would lead people back to our site. We took that same idea and applied it to video embeds. So we solved payments. Payments were a technically challenging problem for people to solve themselves, so we provided a simple solution in terms of a payment button. We did the same thing with video. So the video embed gave people the opportunity to have a video solution for themselves that they could take with them. Yeah. And even if you hadn't uploaded the video yourself, if you found an interesting video that somehow related to your blog post or personally represented you, like in terms of the music that you like, or put it on your MySpace page or something, people could just come and grab this content, put it on their site. And the entire player was basically a giant YouTube ad. That's how we viewed it. That was our marketing budget. The clickable area to play the video in line was just the little play button in the middle, but the rest of the video would click back to our site. So, a little strategy.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
I actually have a great question to conclude this session, if you don't mind, Kevin.
You got 1 minute left. Go for it.
1 minute. If discovering Justin Bieber with YouTube was your biggest mistake, what was the second biggest mistake you made with YouTube? And what would you have done to actually change it or do it differently?
Well, I think the thing for us, we would have loved to have more time. I mean, just, again, kind of being a victim of our own success, and not only be able to continue to kind of take this idea and develop it on our own, but to build the type of team that we wanted to build. I think that one of the things that we saw inside of Google is the quality of the people. They had time to build that organization, and the process, although really strenuous for a lot of people trying to apply to Google, works really well. So I think that's how we've been approaching things this time around, just like how do we take our time? Not always treat everything like a fire drill. You'll figure it out, but make sure you get the right people on board and don't make sacrifices. And if you've found that you had made a mistake, correct it. Don't be afraid to basically let people go, to get the team in place that you need to survive.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your work.
Thanks.
Great. Well, thank you, Chad. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks.